This is episode 96, the top 3 factors to growing young. Welcome to Alive by Design. My name is Blake Mallon, and we're here to bring you inspiring people, principles, and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. Open your mind and let's dive in. Hey guys, before you listen to the podcast, I just want to drop in and say I appreciate you for being here, and I'm super excited about this new Walk With Me series. These are solo episodes where I take some time in the middle of my morning run through the Santa Monica Mountains to share some inspired ideas and thoughts on my mind and heart. If you want to join me for any of these conversations live, you can catch me many mornings on my Facebook page, facebook.com/BlakeMallon.page. Would love to see you there. Love you guys. Enjoy the episode. Walk with me. Little different scenery this morning. Instead of the mountain views, went for a little run by the sea. A little longer workout this morning. Beautiful energy, beautiful day. Can you hear the sound of the waves in these things? So this past weekend was a super fun weekend in the Mallon household. It was my daughter Sadie's 3rd birthday. And it was awesome to be able to have a party at the house with family and friends all coming over and having fun. Masks off, hugs and high fives, smiles all around. We asked Sadie what kind of birthday party she wanted. We go, Sadie, what do you want? And all she would say is, unicorn, unicorn. And then we'd ask her again and she'd say, mermaid, mermaid. So we did unicorns and mermaids for the birthday. Some of you guys maybe saw the photos on my social. It was a blast had by all, for sure. So much love, so much smiles, beautiful moments. But I will say, I saw a bunch of people that I haven't seen in a little while, some close friends, and I had 2, not 1, but 2 people look at me and say, hey, Blake, getting a little salt and pepper up in there on the beard. Calling out my gray, my white hair coming in right here. For those of you guys on the video, you can probably see, I got some white, gray hair starting to come in the beard, a little bit in the hair. And it got me thinking a little bit about aging in a positive way. And I want to have a conversation with you all today about not growing older, but growing young. And what does it take to do so? And for many of you that follow, you know that this year was my 40th. So back in February, I celebrated my 40th birthday. Did an awesome podcast episode where I went through all my journals and pulled out my 40 kind of top principles that I've saved, learned, developed, gotten from others, and put them in a list. And it's a really, really, really powerful list, something personal. But if you haven't caught that episode, it's definitely one worth catching. AliveByDesign.com. We'll find the podcast on podcast platforms and go back to 40 principles on my 40th birthday. Got some awesome feedback. It's a good one. But the point of me talking about my 40th is there's something about 40 where, I don't know about you, but for me, I started thinking about aging. And I know there's probably 2 groups of you out there. There's probably some of you guys in your 20s that are like, I feel you on that. 40. And there's probably some of you guys in your 60s. You're like, Blake, what are you talking about? 40s are the best years of your life. And you start to think about it a little bit, right? Because when you turn 40, you're a decade from 50, right? You're as closer to 50 than you are 30. You know, you're halfway to 80. right? These numbers start going through, at least my head. You start thinking about kind of the second half, right? The halftime point, which is funny to say because you never really know where you're at in the timeline, right? I mean, you never really know. Every day is a gift. But these thoughts started going through my mind at kind of the turn of my birthday. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to aging, I don't want to grow old. I want to grow young, and I believe that's possible. What is age to you? What's your paradigm or your perspective or your belief system around age? I'm just curious. I know the obvious is the amount of time, right? We've been on this spinning rock, right? A chronological age we measure in days and months and years. And I think all that obviously is true from one perspective. I think age, though, more than a amount of time is an energy, right? Age, I think, is an energy. I look at my kids, and if there's one thing I know they have unlimited amounts of, it's insane energy, right? We all look at the next generation and say, man, look at their energy. I remember when I used to have energy. And when we look at our older generation, the thing that lacks is that energy source, right? Is that vitality. I think at the end of the day, an age is an energy. And there's things that we can do to prolong that energy, to preserve that energy, to maintain that energy. I've been actually reading a book called Growing Young. And by reading, I mean listening to. And really, really, really profound insights that you wouldn't expect when it comes to the topic of aging, growing young, and the things that have actually been documented to have the greatest impact on extending that vitality source for all of us. And they're totally opposite than what you would probably guess. And that's the conversation I want to have with you all. So age. So let me ask you this. If I were to ask you right now, what do you think the biggest factors to aging well are? When we think about aging, all of us probably have maybe even different definitions of what age is, what old is. I look at parts of the world, different communities where centenarians, in other words, people that are over 100 years old, are more prevalent. A larger percentage of the population passes 100 years old. And a lot of the studies from the book I was reading really dove into those parts of the world where people seem to extend their lifespan, and not only by years, but quality of life beyond 100. Matter of fact, the oldest person documented or validated in the world was 122. Someone out in France, 122 years old. When asked what the greatest factor was she felt that led to that insane age, she just said, I guess God forgot me, was the feedback. The oldest American, actually, in the U.S., 115. So people live, right, to be outrageous ages, well beyond the 80, 90, right, into the hundreds. And, you know, depending on your belief system, you may believe there's possibility beyond that. I mean, if you go into a lot of the history books, there's all kinds of myths in different cultures of people centuries ago living to be 900 years old and 800 years old, right? And in certain stories, you go to science and you get fascinated by organisms like the hydra, little freshwater hydra, small creatures like a centimeter long that appear to be immortal, as in without any other factors getting in the way, they could live to be thousands of years old. It makes you think about aging in a different way. We got all this advancements in science, right, and technology and studies and so many different things people are pursuing to kind of extend a lifespan. You know, we all have different philosophies on like what is the potential here, but I think most of us would agree that whatever our belief system, whatever science says, whatever the possibility is, we want to maximize our time on this planet in a quality way. And if we were to ask that question, well, what do we need to do so? What are the things that come into your mind, right? A lot of it probably has to do with, well, diet, right? We know that. We're obsessed with what we put into our body. So many different perspectives and opinions of what to take and what not to take, and have some of this, but not too much of this, or if you have none of this, or if you remove this, or, I mean, it seems like every couple years, right, there's different swings in philosophy. And obviously I've been in the nutrition space now for over 2 decades. I've seen a lot of the trends, and it's interesting to see for every group of doctors and nutritionists and scientists that say one thing, there seems to be a group just as big of just as credited doctors, nutritionists, and scientists that say the opposite. And you can always find almost anything to validate any source. Now, I'm not to say I don't think what we put into our body is absolutely important. I do. I believe that. I spent my life in the nutrition space, obviously promoting products as tools, I believe, to help provide ourselves with optimum nutrition, to provide ourselves with a clean energy source. And I believe wholeheartedly in what I use for myself, what I share with my family, what I promote into the world. So I think that's a huge component for sure. Most people would say, well, exercise, obviously, hey, get out and move your body is an important piece, right, to longevity. I'm not going to discredit that. There's probably a long list of don'ts, right? We know there's a long list of don't do that it's going to increase our mortality, but there's a but. The punchline of the book that I've been reading and the studies, long lists of studies on centenarians, people that eclipse over 100 years old, and the top factors, number 1, number 2, number 3 of reducing your mortality rate as measured in studies and documented by people is not what you think. It's actually none of the things that I just mentioned. And I'll give you the abbreviated version of the top 3 factors to growing young, extending our time, at least according to these studies. Number 1, any guesses, any takers? You know what I'm going to say? Number 1 factor, having a loving and committed relationship. What? Some studies say that having a loving and committed relationship, a significant other, can reduce your mortality rate by as high as 49%, which is higher than any food factor, diet factor, nutrition factor. It's higher than any exercise factor, physical factor. A loving and committed relationship. Makes you think about your significant other, right? The one you have or the one that's waiting out there for you right now. But if you think about it, it's true. The opposite side of that coin would be loneliness, right? Would be feeling alone, lack of belonging. But the number 1 has to do with our significant other, right? Our spouse, our person we're going to spend our, lifetime with. And I challenge you to think about that if you're in a relationship right now and it's a happy one, it's a healthy one. Maybe a different lens you approach every day to your conversations or your time together is that person right there is the most important person to your quality of lifestyle and your time on this planet. And if you're not in a relationship right now, this isn't me trying to make you feel bad or feel sad. I know the person that's meant for you is out there. And I know that you guys will come in touch. I know Sometimes we have to work on ourselves to become the person we want to be first in order to attract the person that's going to love us for who we are. And if you're in that phase of life right now where you're focused on you, right, and strengthening you and overcoming and becoming the best you so you can attract the person that's going to love you, hey, great, that's the season you're in. But know that the number one factor, right, long term is going to be a loving and committed relationship. What's number two? Want to take a guess at number two? Number two factor to reducing your mortality is having a close network or community of family and friends. Isn't that interesting? The number two factor, some studies say, increases or decreases your mortality rate by as high as 44%. Has to, again, do with people, has to do with relationships, has to do with connection of those around us. And I'd actually heard this before in various studies in psychology, the importance of belonging. Guys, we are built to be community oriented. We are tribal creatures, right? We are not lone rangers, lone wolves, right? We are pack animals. And we always have been throughout history. And having a close community that cares, a community that creates a feeling of safety, a community that you know has your back, right? Family and friends around you that you can confide in, that you can share with, that can pick you up when you're down, that can raise you up when you're high, right? Knowing you have that backstop, knowing you have people that really care, people that really give a shit. Guys, it's so important today more than ever, especially now more than ever, where we're in an age where we can be given wrong signals or misdirected by how connected we are, or we think we are, on social media and all the friends and the reach and the likes. And it's an amazing time in the world where, man, a couple scrolls of your thumb, you can plug into anyone you want in your life, anywhere in the world. We're more connected than ever before, but we have a less connection than ever before. And you guys, that dichotomy, that paradox is challenging for a lot of people, because we have a fake connection that makes us think like we have our community, but isn't giving the deep emotional roots, the foundation that real connection and real community of family and friends gives. It's a facade. So I think now more than ever, and don't misunderstand me, the tools that we have are amazing, right? The access that we have today is unprecedented. The amount of opportunity that it provides to us, we should not take for granted, but we also should not misunderstand what it is and what it isn't. Number two factor, close network of family and friends. So makes you wonder, right? Are we putting as much time into our friendships, our relationships, as we are into our diet, right? Are we putting as much time into caring about what's going on in the lives of the people closest to us, right, as we are about, right, our own physical appearance or our own exercise? Are we putting as much time into our social circle, right, as we are our to-do list or the work list that we have in our career? Because, guys, studies say that just as important, or if not more important, when it comes to quality of lifestyle in the long term, is that community, is that network. Number two. I'll give you one more. You want one more? I said I'd give you three. The number three, third on the list, according to the studies, when it comes to longevity, has to do with a conscientious mindset. A conscientious mindset. Or I'm going to use a different word to describe than what was given in the book. A mindfulness. Number three. And by conscientious or mindfulness, what that means is an empathy toward others. A feeling or a caring toward others. We are in a crazy time right now where it seems like the world is operating on such low levels of real empathy. We're so quick to cast a stone. We're so quick to throw a judgment. We're so quick to blame or minimize or reduce or diminish others. What happened to empathy, trying to step into somebody else's shoes, look through somebody else's eyes, connect to how somebody else's feels, which is what empathy is all about. And empathy, guys, is an understanding for one another and the energy and the emotion that's coming from them. It's where things like a gratitude and an appreciation stem from. And that energy is actually the number 3 thing on the list when it comes to growing young. Totally different than what you would have thought, right? Totally different than what we're bombarded with every single day. Totally different. Now, don't misunderstand me. Should you put the right nutrition into your body? Yes, right? Should you get out and move, right, every day? Keep yourself fit? Yes. But maybe this conversation is a little different paradigm that just as important, or some would even say even more important to all of that, if we're talking about our age, not our chronological age, but our epigenetic age, right? Our cellular age. Just as important, guys, has to do with the relationships that are most important to us, our significant other, our family and friends, and how we care about and treat those around us. Isn't that crazy? Back to the simple things. Growing young. Isn't it ironic that in order to grow young, it's all about growing ourselves, right? To a point where we can be compassionate and care. Isn't it ironic that being more humane would be one way to call it, allows us to be a human a little bit longer? And those are the things, guys, that we want to keep top of mind and that are super important in the midst of everything, especially now more than ever, as we're in an interesting time, as we've all been challenged across the world over the last year and a half. I think now more than ever, we need to maybe bring back to top of mind the things that are really, really important. How we care about and treat, right, those that love us, those closest to us, those that have our back. And then how we approach, right, the empathy, the understanding, the compassion with one another throughout our lives. So those are the top 3. Hey, no comments, no joking around on the salt and pepper here. I know. But I know I'm going to make these a priority and do my best to not grow old, but grow young, to not make age a chronological number, but an energy, and to keep these things in mind for myself and those around me. How about you? Right? How about you? I hope this conversation shifts your perspective a little bit, creates some awareness, and changes the way you approach some of the people in your life starting this week, from this moment forward. If you guys are interested in it, you can grab the book, just called Growing Young, and it dives deeper into the science and the studies that validate all of this, but that's the high level, and I wanted to share all of that with you today as I'm wrapping my run here on the beach. I'll give you one more view. Sunset surf spot right there. Santa Monica Pier in the distance. Beautiful day. Until the next time we walk together, hope you have an awesome week, and hope you approach your personal relationship, your family and friend relationships, and our fellow humans a little differently this week because of our time together. Take care, everybody.
Hey guys, one last thing. I'm super excited that this new podcast, Alive by Design, just went live. You see, I designed the show to bring you inspired thoughts and fascinating conversations with the world's most impactful people, to provide transformative principles and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. And I'd love for you to help me spread the word now. Simply subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on this platform right now. So if I've ever given you value, please do me this personal favor and go subscribe now. And if you found today's episode helpful in any way, make sure you share this with at least one friend today. You have the power right now to change someone's day. So send them a text message with a link to alivebydesign.com, or simply copy and paste the link right from this podcast platform. Who's one person you know right now that you want to see succeed, that you want to see grow, that you want to see feel more alive? Shoot them a text with your largest takeaway from today and be a light in their day. And if you were referred here by a friend, make sure you shoot them a text back and say thank you. I'd love to hear from you directly on what you got from today's podcast. So if you're up for it, drop by my Instagram at Blake Malin and shoot me a DM. And as always, thank you for showing up. I'm grateful for you, and I hope our time together today in some small way helped you feel a little more alive. Until next time.